being perfectly different yet perfectly fine. Okay. Now to start off, um, actually, based on sa outline, meron siyang video na i-present, no? But I found a different video and mas up to date siya. And I'd like us to hear it, no? Actually, it's a comedian. No, it's parang yung ano ba to? Yung stand-up comedian, no? And let's hear his opinion or his view on men and women relationships. Okay.
Crazy. Women are a little crazy on you, you know? That's the problem with the men and women situation is, here's the actual, I've broken it down what the problem is. The problem is that women are always thinking, always. Their brains are continuously working. They never stop thinking. It doesn't have to be about them or you. They're just thinking about it all the time. Right now, Vicky could be sitting there looking at the stage going, I wonder what that stage is made out of. Just in her head. Just see, she's laughing because that's what she was thinking just now. She's like, I wonder what it is made out of. Is that microphone heavy? What if that's a heavy microphone? They're just always thinking. They're just thinking all the time, even when they're sleeping. That's why women will always wake up, I have weird dreams. I wake up and go, I wish I could remember my fucking dreams. I don't remember my dreams. Oh my God. You ever had your girlfriend wake up from a dream and she dreamt about you and you did some f***ed up in her dream and she wakes up mad at you? Hey baby, don't touch me. What did I do? You know what you did. I woke up. I wish you didn't. But women are always thinking. Their brains are continuously moving. They're always exercising that brain. See, guys have the ability to do something that women can't do. I don't know if you can't do it or if you just choose not to. I don't know if you're afraid your brain will shut off if you do this shit or something. But guys have the ability to sit there for like 15 minutes, stare off into space, and think about nothing. Like, nothing. When I say nothing, I mean there isn't one single thought in our head. Like if you were to put a camera in our head to see what we were thinking, it would just be a blank screen. At best, a screensaver. That's it, just this. And women can't handle that shit. Because women will always come over to you when you're having your 15 minutes of thoughtless time. And always come over. What are you thinking about? Have you ever noticed how scared we get when you do that? What are you thinking about? Son of a... And we tell you what we're thinking about. Nothing. Now here's the thing, about a month into a relationship, a woman will look at you and go, promise me something. Sure, anything, what? Promise. You'll never lie to me. I promise. And that's the first time we lie to you. It's messed up is when you tell your woman the truth and that's the wrong answer. You tell her the truth and that's not what she wanted to hear. They tell you, never lie to me, we tell you the truth and it's not what you want to hear. It doesn't have to be a good truth or a bad truth, it can just be an indifferent truth, but they don't want to hear about it. That's why when they ask you, what are you thinking about? And we go, nothing. We just told you the truth. But that's not what she wanted to hear. Come on, you had to be thinking about something. No, it wasn't. It wasn't nothing. There wasn't anything in my head, nothing. Really. They start accusing you. Why won't you tell me what you're thinking? What do you think, I'm hiding my thoughts? Even if I was, they're my thoughts. If I wanted them to be real, I would have said them. You always do this. Do what? Why won't you tell me what you're thinking about? Because I wasn't thinking about anything. Share with me.
Okay, brothers and sisters. I hope none of you were offended by that, huh? That was a simple parody, not parody, a simple way to show how how people view men and women, no? So based on the picture, no, what will we talk about? Basically the differences, no, as what title, our subtitle of our talk today is perfectly different yet perfectly fine. Okay? So before I continue, meron pala kaming guest na kapapasok lang, no? So allow me to welcome our guest, si Vince Eraga. He's actually a guest of our brother Erwin. So hi Vince, I hope you're here.
Welcome to Pathways.
Welcome to Pathways.
Welcome to Pathways, Vince.
Thank you po.
Okay. Sige. So to continue, what I will share with you some points of view on what the world thinks of, or how the world views the difference in men and women. You know? So first, here's a media article. No? Nandyan sa baba yung kung saan ko nakuha. No? I hope you can see it. No? So this is a picture of a woman. Her name is Shanti Devi. No? And itong article na to, or itong news company, highlighted her in the lifestyle portion of their magazine. And they said, Shanti Devi, a truck mechanic in Delhi, is the only female truck mechanic in the transport company. No? She has gained quite a lot of popularity in the last few days, and the credit is all hers. And why shouldn't it be? After all, she can boast of being powerful enough to move and repair tires weighing 60 to 80 kilos and fix punctures for at least 15 trucks a day. No? What does this point to, brothers and sisters? In the world now, there seems to be sometimes an attitude that women need to prove themselves, that women need to prove that they can do what are normally done by men, diba? So tama rin naman, diba? Why does media need to hype up women trying to trying to find their place in the world of men, diba? Where do you see women moving into the trucking industry or being a mechanic? No, being powerful enough to move and repair tires. No? So that's one. No, there seems to be a high media or the world highlighting women trying to catch up to men, no, or putting themselves in the roles of men. No? Second, yan. Here naman is a lyrics of a song by Bruno Mars several years ago. It's called the Lazy Song. No, some of you might be familiar. It goes, today I don't like feeling doing anything, but I just wanna lay in my bed. Yeah. So, well, unfortunately, this also portrays a negative image of us men, naman. No, na sometimes we just wanna lounge out, just want to be a couch potato and just raise our feet and just simply be there. No, we just want to lie on the couch, just chill in my snuggie, click to MTV so that they can teach me how to do, because in my castle, I'm the freaking man. No, sometimes there are men out there who say, kingdom ko to. I rule here and I can do whatever I want. And at this particular time, I just want to be lazy and lounge in my bed. No, di ko na nilagay dito, but for some of us who grew up with Peter Pan, or have you watched the movie Hook? I think I gave this as an example even before. Diba? Peter Pan was someone who didn't want to grow up, to the point that in the movie of Hook, when he grew up, he totally forgot his childhood. Anyway, but it's deviating from what I'm sharing. No? So those are two. No? And I'll share with you quickly. There are three other perspectives that the world is showing or presenting to us in the differences of men and women. What are those three things? First is, now there are dual roles. No? There are men who are staying at home while the women or the wives are going out into the office, no? Going out to work. No? Second, in terms of leadership roles, there are a lot of women now who are taking on the role of leadership, to the point that if there is a man who is capable of being a leader, he has to prove himself pa na kaya nila. No? So in terms of leadership roles, the women are assuming themselves, and just like what we heard earlier with Shanti, no? And because of that, nagkakaroon ng distinction or maybe bias or even how do you say it, opposition in terms of leadership roles. Parang nagiging challenge talaga. Who will be on top? Will it be the man or will it be the woman? No? And the third picture, hindi ko lang kung nakita niyo yung picture na yan. Actually, that's a picture of a husband and wife nung una. No? Yung dun sa blue, one in the blue. That is Ian King and Angela Mead. No? They got married, husband and wife. But on the right, the next picture, si Ian King naging trans woman. And si Angela Mead still continued in their relationship as, well, hindi ko nga alam hindi na husband and wife tawag siguro dyan, ano? Kasi hindi na siya technically or physically husband. No? So the gender of man and woman is no longer limited to being a man and a woman. No? So there's already an LGBTQ and then that. So marami na. No? So these are some perspectives of the world in terms of the differences between men and women. No? And hopefully, this evening, no, we will share with you a Christian perspective on how do we see these differences. No? In a sense, may cue na kayo may impression na tayo on what you will be hearing. No? So I hope you don't mind if I'll breeze through it kasi most of these are familiar naman with us. No? First, the first point is that men and women are equal. No? They are created equal. No? As is written in scripture, no? Most often you hear a quote from Genesis, no? But allow me to share you a different scripture, no? In Galatians 3:28, it is written, "There is neither Jew or Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female. For you or for we are all one in Christ Jesus." No? What does that simply mean? Walang lamangan. No? No gender is above the other, whether it be male or female, whether it be brother and sister. We are equal in the eyes of the Lord. No? Collectively, we are called children of God. So there should be no distinction between being a brother or being a sister. Second point, we may be equal, but that does not mean we are equal in all things. Meaning hindi siya 50-50 because we may be equal, but we are distinct. No? Distinct how? These three things. Obvious naman, when we were born, we were born differently. Physically, there were some attributes that are in men and there are some in women. Ngayon na lang, in the past decade or two, na at first look, hindi mo na makikita yung difference. No? Kasi natapalan na o na-enhance na o binago na. No? But by design, when we were born, you can physically see the difference between men and women. Kaya nga, ewan ko kung narinig nyo, di ba? Maraming nakakagulat sa Korea o sa China because they do all these physical changes to them. Kuminsan some couples or some husband would say, "Oh, pati ba yung itsura ng anak natin, hindi kasing ganda mo." Kasi yung napangasawa pala niya, hindi yun yung original na itsura niya. Di ba? So we must all remember, we may be equal, but we are distinct. We are different from one another, biologically. Emotionally, we are. There are differences between men and women. No? Some say bro, mukhang pare-pareho na. It may be that way because maybe we allow, or given the circumstances, women need to be stronger. They need to be, in a sense, iba, if you understand a little bit, I'll touch on the psychology, that there are feminine traits and there are masculine traits. No? Sometimes women, since they are in a masculine society, need to be, or masculine environment, need to be, or need to exhibit some masculine traits. No? And sometimes some men, since they are at home, sometimes they also exhibit some female roles or female emotions. No? And that goes directly also to psychology. No? Normally, men are asked to provide. Men are asked to look for opportunities to provide for family or to work. No? But in terms of the women naman, normally they are there to nurture, no? To nurture one another. And these are truths. These are truths. Nagkakataon lang ngayon na because of the first one, or the third point that I mentioned about dual roles, kaya nagkakaroon ng minsan confusion. No? But we must all go back to the start of everything. You know? We are equal, but that does not mean we have similar traits. There will always be distinctions between men and women. No? Unless the man changes and makes a decision, or the woman makes a decision. Okay. Third point. So, because of the equal but distinct, no, there are roles that are best performed by one rather than the other. No. Now, in the outline that's given to me, the example that they showed there was basketball. No, that there are positions like a point guard and then a center, so they are exclusively different roles. No, but sabi ko, mukhang weak yung example na yun kasi in today's basketball, I don't know if some of the sisters can relate, but there is what we call positionless basketball, meaning a center can now dribble the ball up to the front court. No, they can even go coast to coast, meaning from the defensive side all the way to the offensive side. No, there are also some smaller guys who score not by shooting from outside, but from playing inside near the ring. No, so basketball was not a good analogy or symbolism that I'd want to use. I'd like to use this symbolism in the next slide. So do you recognize this group? So these are the marching bands, no, the drum and bugle corps. No, so why is this a better description of having different roles for men and women? No, if you look at it, may imagine nyo ba? Do you see those big tubas at the end? No, those big white things. Hindi magaan yan. No, and because it is heavy, normally it is the male, it is the man who carries that. No, maybe 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10. Normally, you see a man carrying that. But if you look front on the red ones, ano yung hawak nila? The wood instruments, the flute, no, the wind instruments. Sorry, the wind instruments. No, so normally the women naman can hold on to that. No, if you see the one on the right, the black and white, the trombone, sometimes the men are also carrying that kasi mabibigat yan, no? And if you look in the middle, the drums, no? Dun sa middle, dun sa clear picture, ano yan? Lalaki yan. He is on his shoulders, he's carrying not one, but I think around 3 to 5 smaller drums. So imagine the weight of that. Yes, women can carry that, but sigurado ako masasakit ang kanilang katawan, no? But if you look at the foreground, yung medyo blurred, ano nakikita niyo dyan? Mukhang babae yan. Mukhang woman yan. Nagdadala ng, most likely that would be a snare. No? A single piece of drum, of drum instrument. No? So what's the point? Understanding our uniqueness helps us perform better as individuals and teams, no? And family. So important na ma-distinguish natin yan. No? And we accept that. No? Because if we do, hindi magiging madali ang buhay natin. Whether it be at work, whether it be with friends, whether it be with families. And the next point would show also that we are complementary. So, okay, we may be unique, we may be distinct, but that does not mean we can work with one another. As the example that we shared, or that we heard last week from our sister Pao about the glasses, it would be better if we are both full when we come into a relationship and that we can complement with one another. The other diagram picture on the right side, that is the color wheel. Red will be red, blue would be blue, yellow would be yellow. But what happens if you combine red and blue? When they complement one another, they become violet. In the degree of how you mix colors, baka the violet would be more red violet or blue violet. No? If you combine blue and yellow, it will become green. And how you mix the blue and green, the blue and yellow, sorry, that would also show what shade of green that would be. Blue remains blue, yellow remains yellow. But when they come together, they bring out a different color. No? So that is also the same with us as men and women. No? We do not compete with one another, but it is better as we understand our differences and uniqueness. It is understood. We would be able to bring out the best of one another. No? So one quick example of that, I guess, is in married life. No? Well, me and my wife, si Modi, have been together for, dapat careful ako dito, more than 25 years. Safe answer. And through those numbers of years, I am very thankful for her. One way, I guess, that we complement one another is sometimes I have these big ideas. I put it down, and then sometimes when I ask her to check it, kasi, well, point is I'm not that detail oriented. I may be detail oriented at sometimes, but well, let's just say she's more detail oriented than I am. So what happens? So for example, itong presentation natin, I did put it all together and then said, Han, pa-check naman. Baka meron akong detail na hindi napansin. And true enough, later on, as I conclude this presentation, she said, Han, mukhang mas maganda yata na ito na lang ang i-end mo, not the original. And true enough, if I did, and true enough, that's how, if I did not ask her to help out and recognize her strength in it, baka hindi kaganda yung ating ending mamaya. Also at work, that also happens. It's not necessarily within a family relationship. Not just in a married context, even at work. For our single brothers and sisters, napansin nyo ba who do you work well best with? Sometimes it's with the men or the women or your co-workers who you find are complementary to your strengths and weaknesses. I used to work when I used to work in a sales training in my work before, in one of the offices or companies I worked before. And similarly, as a trainer, I put together things, and similar to what I asked of my wife, of Modi, I have a staff who also is very much detail oriented than I am. So I put things together and say, oh, meron ba akong hindi napansin o hindi nagawa o medyo kulang. And fortunately, either she says, sir, wala naman. Sir, baka pwedeng ganito. And I found that helpful, lalo na kasi in a team setting or in a corporate setting. Mahirap kung parating ikaw, aside from nakakapagod, by involving other men and women or other people in your workplace, no, in your team or in your department, they are empowered and they are able to help and maybe even come up with a better product as compared kung ikaw lang ang gumawa. In the corporate world nga, when I was there, sabi nga namin, there is we'd have a how do you call it, a description or a explanation of the word TEAM, team. It goes together, everyone accepts or accomplishes more. No? So team, together, everyone accomplishes more. No? And what better way to do that? If you acknowledge the uniqueness of one another in a team, of the men and women in your team, and yet you treat them as equals. No? As equals. Yes. Okay. Next slide, please. In terms of family, no, for the couples here, no, very clear dun sa Bible yung position niya about the relationship between men and women in terms of a husband-wife relationship. No? In Ephesians, it says, sorry, mahaba yata. I think that's Ephesians 5. Hindi naman yata abot ng 56 chapters ng Ephesians. No? So, my bad on that typo. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. No? Growing up in community, the word submit has always been a challenge, especially for the wives. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Napapailalim ako o sometimes pa nga, the submit is equated to the word subordinate. No? But as we have heard, that's not the case. No? Husband and wives, brothers and sisters, remember, we are equal in the eyes of God. And yet, distinct. And because of that distinct, we are able to do roles differently. There are roles that are specifically better for us as husbands and better for our wives as women. No? And the key there is to find that para you can complement one another. No? So, as I come to a close, what does that mean? No? First, we are equal but distinct, no? As mentioned. And because of that, each has a role best done by the other. No? Alam ko, well, sometimes in the corporate world, di ba? Mas madaling, ako na lang gagawa niyan kasi alam ko kung anong gagawin. Pero as I've seen people in the corporate world, yeah, they can do that. Pero ano mangyayari? Pag uwi nila, pagod sila, burnt out sila, and if they do not share the load, malamang baka hindi sila tumagal sa trabaho na yon. They leave the work and find another work. But if you acknowledge our differences, if we acknowledge our uniqueness in being distinct from one another, and find ano yung role o yung function that each other that we can be better, no? We complement, then we help one another be the best versions of ourselves. No? No. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyong ending na tinulungan ako ng aking esposa. No? Pope Francis said, together, men and women were created in their blessed differences. Together, they have sinned for their presumption to replace God. Together, with the grace of Christ, they return to God's presence to honor the care of the world and the history that He has entrusted to them. No? So clear, brothers and sisters, na pantay-pantay tayo sa mata ng Diyos. No? Together, we have sinned, as what is written in Romans. No? All of us have fallen short of the glory of God. And yet, with the grace of God, we all return to His presence to honor and care for the world. No? Siyempre, naka-underline dito, honor and care of the world based on our roles, based on what we can do. No? At hindi sinasabing kung ano yung ginagawa ng husband, yun din ang gagawin ng wife. Di ba parang redundant yun? Better kung ano yung nagagawa ng husband ng mabuti, kung ano nagagawa ng wife mabuti, edi let's just work together. Kesa dalawang tao gagawa ng isang bagay, edi dalawang tao nakagawa ng dalawang bagay. Di ba? And for our single brothers and sisters, well, ano yung masasabi ko? Maybe if you are towards that path of getting married, hopefully you find the right partner. Don't be scared na totally different siya sa inyo, but look for a partner who can complement you. No? Not necessarily improve you, not necessarily change you, but a partner who can complement you, no, and bring out the best in you. Not just if you are looking towards marriage, but even if you are looking to work well with other people, huwag agad-agad tataas kilay at masabing, ha? Bakit ka ganyan? Biglang nag-judge. Try to look and see ano ba yung strengths ng mga kasama natin sa trabaho. No? And how can we use these strengths to complement our own strengths. And because of that, hopefully at the end of the day, we can say, as our tagline says, perfectly different and yet perfectly fine. Okay. So that ends my presentation. I hope it was clear enough. Kasi gusto rin natin have more time in terms of sharing, no, with your groups. No? So what are we gonna share about in our discussion groups? No? So before I ask you to be broken out into your discussion groups, ano yun? Two things. First, share an experience when you were challenged in relating with the opposite sex. No? And second, share an experience when you complimented the other sex. No? Kaya ako to phrase in such a way kasi yun nga, not all of us naman here are married. We have some brothers and sisters who are not married. So I left it open-ended. No? So you can share it in relation to your work. But for us who are couples who are married, I suggest use it in relation to your family, to your husband and wife situation.